The Lean Startup by Ries. Reading Part 1, Vision. Chapter 3, Learn. Validated Learning at IMVU. Let me illustrate this with an example from my career. Many audiences have heard me recount the story of IMVU's founding and the many mistakes we made in developing our first product. I'll now elaborate on one of those mistakes to illustrate validated learning clearly. Those of us involved in the founding of IMVU aspire to be serious strategic thinkers. Each of us had participated in previous ventures that had already failed, and we were loath to repeat that experience. Our main concerns in the early days dealt with the following question: what should we build and for whom? What market could we enter and dominate? How could we build durable value that would not be a subject of erosion by competition? Brilliant strategy. We decided to enter the instant messaging market. In 2004, the market had hundreds and millions of consumers actively participating worldwide. However, the majority of customers were using IM products but not paying for their privilege. Instead, large media and portal companies like AOL, Microsoft, and Yahoo operated their IM networks as a loss leader for other services while making modest amounts of money through advertising. IM is an example of a market that involves strong network effects. Like most communication networks, IM is thought to follow Metcalfe's law. The value of a network as a whole is proportional to the square of the number of participants. In other words, the more people in the network, the more valuable the network. This makes intuitive sense. The value to each participant is driven primarily by how many other people he or she can communicate with. Imagine a world in which you own the only telephone. It would have no value. Only when other people also have a telephone does it make valuable. In 2004, the IM network was locked by a handful of incumbents. The top three networks controlled more than 80% of the overall usage and were in the process of consolidating their gains in market share at the expense of the number of small players. The common wisdom was that it was more or less impossible to bring a new IM network to market without spending an extraordinary amount of money on marketing. The reason for that wisdom is simple. Because of the power of network effects, IM products have high switching costs. To switch from one network to another, customers would have to convince their friends and colleagues to switch with them. This extra effort for consumers created a barrier to entry in the IM market, with all the consumers locked into an incumbent's product. There are no customers left with whom to establish a beachhead. At IMVU, we settle on a strategy of building a product that would combine the large mass appeal of traditional IM with the high revenue per customer of a three-dimensional video game and virtual worlds. Because of the near impossibility of bringing a new IM network to market, we decided to build an IM add-on product that would interoperate with the existing networks. Thus, customers would be able to adopt the IMVU virtual good and avatar communication technology without having to switch IM providers, learn a new user interface, and most important, bring their friends with them. In fact, we thought this last point was essential. For the add-on product to be useful, customers would have to use it with their existing friends. Every communication would come embedded with an invitation to join IMVU. Our product would be inherently viral, spreading throughout the existing IM network like an epidemic. To achieve the viral growth, it was important that our add-on products support as many as existing IM networks as possible and work with all kinds of computers. 6 months to launch. With this strategy in place, my co-founders and I began a period of intense work. As the chief technology officer, it was my responsibility, among other things, to write the software that would support IM interoperability across networks. My co-founders and I worked for months, putting in crazy hours struggling to get out the first product released. We gave ourselves a hard deadline of 6 months to launch the product and attract our first paying customers. It was a grueling schedule, but we were determined to launch on time. The add-on product was so large and complex and had so many moving parts that we had to cut a lot of corners to get it done on time. I won't mince words. The first version was terrible. We spent endless hours arguing about which bug to fix and which we could live with, which feature to cut, and which to try to cram in. It was a wonderful and terrifying time. We were full of hope about the possibilities for success and full of fear about the consequences of shipping a bad product. Personally, I was worried that the low quality of product would tarnish my reputation as an engineer. People would think I didn't know how to build a quality product. All of us feared tarnishing the IMVU brand. After all, we were charging people money for a product that didn't work very well. We all envisioned the damning newspaper headline, "Inept entrepreneurs build dreadful product." As launch day approached, our fears escalated. In our situation, many entrepreneurial teams give in to fear and postpone the launch date. Although I understand this impulse, I'm glad we persevered, since delay prevents many startups from getting the feedback they need. Our previous failures made us more afraid of another, even worse, outcome than shipping a bad product, building something that nobody wants. And so, teeth clenched and apologies at the ready, we released our product to the public. Launch. Then nothing happened. It turned out that our fears were unfounded. Nobody even tried our product. At first, I was relieved because at least nobody was finding how bad the product was, but soon that gave way to serious frustration. After all the hours we spent arguing about which features to include and which bugs to fix, our value proposition was so far off that customers weren't getting far enough into the experience to find out how bad our design choices were. Customers wouldn't even download our product. Over the ensuing weeks and months, we labored to make the product better. We brought a steady flow of customers through our online registration and download process. We treated each each day's customer as a brand new report card to let us know how we were doing. We eventually learned how to change the product's positioning so that customers at least would download it. We were making improvements to the underlying product continuously, shipping bug fixes and new daily challenges, new changes daily. However, despite our best efforts, we were able to persuade only a pathetically small number of people to buy the product. In retrospect, one good decision we made was to set clear revenue targets for those early days. In the first month, we intended to make $300 in total revenue, and we did barely. Many friends and families were begged. Each month, our small revenue target increased, first to 350, then to 400. As they rose, our struggles increased. We soon ran out of friends and family. Our frustration escalated. We were making the product better every day, yet our customers' behavior remained unchanged. They still wouldn't use it. Our failure to move the number prodded us to accelerate our efforts to bring customers into our office in-person interviews and usability tests. The quantitative target created the motivation to engage in qualitative inquiry and guided us in the questions we asked. This is a pattern you'll see throughout this book. I wish I could say that I was the one to realize our mistake and suggest the solution, but in truth, I was the last to admit the problem. In short, our entire strategic analysis of the market was utterly wrong. We figured this out empirically through experimentation rather than focus group or market research. Customers could not tell us what they wanted. Most, after all, had never heard of 3D avatars. Instead, they revealed the truth through their actions or inactions as we struggled to make the product better. Talking to customers. In our desperation, we decided to talk to some potential customers. We brought them into our office. Try this new product. It's Imvu. If a person was a teenager, a heavy user of IM, or a tech early adopter, he or she would engage us. In contrast, if it was a mainstream person, the response was right. So exactly what do you want me to do? We'd get nowhere with the mainstream group. They thought IMU was too weird. Imagine a 17-year-old girl sitting down with us to look at this product. She chooses her avatar and says, oh, this is really fun. She's customizing the avatar, deciding how she's going to look. Then we say, all right, it's time to download the instant messaging add-on. And she says, what's that? Well, this is the thing that interoperates with the instant messaging client. She's looking at us and thinking, I've never heard of that. My friends have never heard of that. What do you want me to do? It requires a lot of explanation. An instant messaging add-on was not a product category that existed in her mind. But since she was in the room with us, we were able to talk her into doing it. She downloaded the product, she downloads the product, and then we say, okay, invite your friends to the chat. And she says, no way. We say, why not? And she says, well, I don't know if this thing is cool yet. You want me to risk inviting one of my friends? What are they going to think of me? If it sucks, they're going to think that I suck, right? And we say, no, it's going to be so much fun. Once you get the person in there, it's social product. She looks at us, her face filled with doubt. You can see that this is a deal breaker. Of course, the first time I had that experience, I said, it's all right. It's just one person, send her away, get a new one. Then the second customer comes and the same thing. The third customer comes and it's the same thing. You start to see a pattern, and no matter how stubborn you are, there's obviously something wrong. Customers kept saying, I want to use it by myself. I want to try it first to see how cool it is before I invite a friend. Our team was from the video game industry, so we understood what that meant, single player mode. So we built a single player version. We'd bring new customers into our office. They'd customize the avatar and download the product like before. Then they would go into single player mode and we'll say, play with your avatar and dress it up. Check out the cool moves it can make, followed by, okay, you did that by yourself. Now it's time to invite one of your friends. You can see what's coming. They'd say, no way, this isn't cool. And we'd say, well, we told you it wasn't going to be cool. What is the point of a single player playing a social product? See, we thought we could get a gold jar just for listening to our customers, except our customers still didn't want the product. They would look at us and say, listen, old man, you don't understand. What is the deal with the crazy business of inviting friends before I know it's cool? It was a total deal breaker. Out of further desperation, we introduced a feature called Chat Now that allows you to push a button and invite randomly matched and be randomly matched with someone else in the entire world. The only thing you have in common is that you both push the button at the same time. All of a sudden, in our customer service desk, people say, oh, this is fun. So we'd bring them in and they use Chat Now, and maybe they would meet somebody that was cool. They say, hey, that guy was neat. I want to add him to my buddy list. Where's a buddy list? And say, oh, no, you don't want a new buddy list. You want to use your regular AOL buddy list. Remember, this was how we plan to harness the interoperability that would lead to new networks and viral growth. Picture the customer looking at us, asking, what do you want me to do exactly? And we'd say, well, just give the stranger your AIM screen name so you can put him in your buddy list. You could see their eyes go wide and they say, are you kidding me? Then a stranger on my AIM buddy list? To which we'd respond, yes, otherwise you'd have to download a whole new IAM client with a new buddy list. And they'd say, do you have any idea how many IAM clients I already run? No, one or two maybe. That's how many clients each one of us at the office use. To which the teenager said, duh, I run eight. We have no idea how many instant messaging clients there were in the world. We had the incorrect preconception that it's a challenge to learn new software and it's tricky to move your friends to over to a new buddy list. Our customers revealed that this was nonsense. We wanted to draw diagrams on the whiteboard that showed why our strategy was brilliant, but our customers didn't understand concepts like network effects and switching costs. If we tried to explain why they should behave the way we predicted, they'd just shake their heads at us, bewildered. We had a mental model of how people use software that was years out of date, and we eventually, and so painfully, after dozens of meetings like that, it started to dawn on us that add-on concept was fundamentally flawed. Our customers did not want an IAM add-on. They wanted a standalone IAM. They did not consider having to learn how to use a new IAM as a program, how to use a new IAM program a barrier. On the contrary, our early adopters use many different IAM programs simultaneously. Our customers were not intimidated by the idea of having to take their friends with them to the new IAM. It turned out that they enjoyed the challenge. Even more surprising, our assumption that customers would want to use avatar-based IAM primarily with their existing friends was also wrong. They wanted to make new friends, an activity that 3D avatars are particularly well suited to facilitating. Bit by bit, customers tore apart our seemingly brilliant initial strategy. Thank you for listening to the Lean Startup. I will continue to read tomorrow.